Welcome to Executive Leaders Radio, your spot in the corner office, the radio show where executives share their secrets to success. Executive Leaders Radio.
You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen, with my co-host Matthew Shapiro-Obermeyer, Caleb Hoppus-Hanlon, Jim Wilson-Newmark, Tim Gwynn, PCH Technologies, and Frank Arcara, Alliant. Matthew, can you give us a rundown of who's going to be on the air today with us, please?
Sure can. We've got a really interesting list of guests this morning. We're starting off with Cynthia Figueroa, who's the president and CEO of JEVS Human Services. Then we have Eric Pryor, president and CEO of the Pennsylvania Academy of the Fine Arts. Following that, we have Chris McCarthy, Philadelphia market leader of Mercer, and we'll be wrapping up today with Ernie Huggard, president and CEO of First Harvest Credit Union.
Let's get to know our first guest, Cynthia Figueroa, president and CEO of JEVS Human Services. Cynthia, what is JEVS Human Services? What are you guys doing?
We're a large human service organization serving the Delaware County region that serves 20,000 individuals through human services and education.
Wow. Where are you from? How many brothers and sisters, and where are you in the pecking order?
From Puerto Rico. I'm the youngest of three daughters and grew up in Miami, Florida.
And when you were, what kind of stuff were you doing 8 to 14? What were you doing as a kid, 8 to 14 years old?
I was heavily involved in sports, and specifically I was a competitive gymnast and I swam.
Competitive gymnast and you swam. All right, Caleb, give me a hand, please.
Cynthia, what events did you take part in gymnastics?
So I competed in all four events. My best event was the beam and the vault.
What does it take to be a good gymnast?
A lot of conditioning, a lot of training, and a lot of repetition to perfect your routines.
A lot of repetition. So how many days a week are you practicing?
6 days a week, multiple hours.
So you know about hard work. I take it, are you one of the CEOs that comes in at 10 and leaves at 2, or do you have a lot of long hours at JEVS?
I actually believe in really efficient work. So I work long hours. I have 2 kids, so I really focus my time and don't waste a lot of time in between.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I get it. It is focused. It certainly sounds like you were focused as young. It sounds like you're pretty focused nowadays. Matthew?
Cynthia, tell me about your mom.
I have this incredible mom who is a role model. She recently passed, so I think is much more forward-thinking, really instilled social justice and hard work as a pathway forward.
And is she part of your faith and religion and the role of faith and religion in your life?
She said she was raised in a very difficult environment, third world country, extreme abject poverty, but used her faith and her education to really move her and give a different life for her family. And that was the role model really that has led me through so much of who I am, and faith as a critical part.
Mm-hmm. Jim?
Cynthia, you mentioned you were the youngest of 3, 2 older sisters, and they were a little bit of overachievers. Can you fill us in on that?
Yeah, so they both went almost like full rides, one to Yale, one to Emory, valedictorians of their classes. I was not the same. So yeah, they were definitely the role models that I wanted to emulate.
How have their high standards and expectations influenced your own goals and aspirations?
I could see that if you worked really hard, you could achieve the goals that were set forward. First generation family. My father was a teacher. My mom was a retail clerk, and we went to some of the best, universities in the country.
Huh. How about that, Tim?
Changing gears a little bit. How early did you start earning money, and what did you do at that time?
My first association wasn't really earning money, but bartering. As a gymnast, we couldn't really afford the high-end gym I was a part of. So I gave back time in order to be able to stay on the team.
Okay. What did you learn from that, or what did you get from that has anything to do with being it says you're the president and CEO of this large human service organization?
Well, tying my mom and CEO was like negotiation and bartering, so that you have something that you can bring forward that is a benefit or an asset, and that there's something you can gain in return for that barter.
Frank?
Cynthia, the youngest girl in a faith-based family. What was your role in the family?
I was the comic relief and the calming effect, and sort of pushing the envelope on the stringent nature of a first-generation Catholic Latino family.
And how does that impact what you do today as president and CEO?
Well, as the youngest of 3 and in that environment, I believe that there were no limitations to be set. So pushing to do the first of many things, and not believing that because you were a woman or a minority that was going to stop or end the opportunities.
Cynthia, where'd you get this idea that that you could do anything you put your mind to?
Well, I think interestingly enough, a Latino father of 3 girls, I think he was more upset with the limitations that the society wanted to put on women. And so he was a huge influence, as was my mom. I mean, what she had overcome demonstrated to me that anything could be possible.
What did she overcome?
Well, she lived in Honduras, which you've seen a lot is she lived in abject poverty, and she used education as a way to get to the United States and, had a successful life with 3 amazing daughters.
And what's that have to do with you? The fact that she came from Honduras and used education. What's that have to do with what you're doing nowadays?
So the work that we do at JEVS is really try to bring independence to individuals and give them the best quality of life, but you have to work hard to achieve the ability to be successful. And so it's a direct translation.
Yeah, it does. So it certainly sounds like you got a big, huge chunk of your mom in you doing what you're doing nowadays, don't you?
I do. I am her legacy. And I think now that feels more important than ever.
What do you mean?
Well, I think what she was here was a model and a inspiration. And with her passing, I think there's a sense of further responsibility that we have a responsibility to other people in this world, and we can't just stand alone. And our success alone doesn't mean that as a world we're successful.
Where'd you get that from? Which parent?
Both of them. They were both very involved in social justice, even though we grew up poor and they grew up in extreme poverty. There was always this belief of respect and that you had as much to give the world, regardless of what you came into the world with.
Give me that again. What are you talking about?
So every person is worth as much as the other. It doesn't matter what your status, your title, your income, the things that you have. You have to remind yourself that any person who's standing in front of you has as much as potential as you bring to the table.
Uh-huh.
If you treat everybody equally, you're going to get more from the opportunities that are presented, whether that's in a negotiation, whether that's who you're hiring, whether that's the vision you're putting forth for an organization. Your ability to inspire others comes from your ability to connect relationally with them.
Earlier in the green room, you corrected me. You said, Herb, even though I was the youngest of 3, I was the first of a lot of stuff. What are you talking about there?
Well, I was feisty and pushed and believed that all options. So, I was the first Latina deputy mayor of the city of Philadelphia. Right now, I'm the first woman, first minority, and first non-Jewish person running JEVS Human Services. So just having the opportunity to, push to be at the table. And sometimes that meant I was the first, whether it was the first woman or the first Latina or the youngest.
Matthew, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm fascinated by that when you talk about connections and those things. And here you are with this Catholic Latina background, which is so much a part of who you are. And you're running this historically Jewish organization. How did that happen? Why?
Well, the beauty is that Jewish values, Catholic values, a lot of the old world religions are really about human values. And the ability to connect with individuals and have shared commonalities about bringing forward individuals into a better world is in common. So it was clear that we were aligned, even though it was a very different denomination that has a pretty extraordinary variance in our beliefs. There's so much more that brings us together than separates us.
So I'm curious, have there been challenges with the staff at JEVS and how have you dealt with them? How have you used your faith and what your mother gave you to deal with a staff that probably you're kind of new for them?
Yeah, one of the things I did early on was talk a lot about my background, my heritage, and my faith. And it was very easy to draw the parallels. And so making that, again, using relationships to make that human direct connection was apparent how similar I was.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that I had lived experience, that I had grown up.
Cynthia, you mentioned earlier that you were the youngest of 3 and you've done a lot. Are you finished doing first or you got some more?
I am totally not finished doing first.
What are you talking about? What do you mean?
I got a lot of gas in the tank.
Let's go. So you have some plans for JEVS and for your life, huh?
I do.
Cynthia, how do you inspire your kids to achieve first?
The best has been what my mom did, and my dad, which is model. I bring them to a lot of stuff. They see me speak. They see the work that I do. I bring them to events. I introduce them to folks that I would have loved to have met at the time that I was growing up. So they see firsthand, and my kids saw an executive mom. They saw a working mom.
What's the website address for JEVS Human Services?
JEVS.org.
JEVS.org. We've been speaking with Cynthia Figueroa, President and CEO of JEVS Human Services here on Executive Leaders Radio. Don't forget to visit our website. It's executiveleadersradio.com. That's executiveleadersradio.com. Learn more about our executive leaders. Please stick around. We'll be back in a moment, right after this quick break. This is Herb Cohen, your host at executiveleadersradio.com. Regarding your career, if you're trying to figure out how to make the most money and also enjoy your career, that's enjoy your career, really enjoy your career and make the most money, you ought to talk to our CEOs. They've got the bird's eye view of where the really profitable jobs are, where the really profitable jobs are going to be, and they're willing to speak with you regarding their vision for the future and where you may fit into it in order to make the most money and really enjoy your career. Email us, consult@executiveleadersradio.com. That's consult@executiveleadersradio.com to get help from our CEOs regarding where you may want to go in your career to make the most money and really enjoy your career. Consult@executiveleadersradio.com.
I am a non-attorney spokesperson representing a team of lawyers who help people that have been injured or wronged. If you've been involved in a serious car, truck, or motorcycle accident or injured at work, you have rights, and you may be entitled to money for your suffering. Don't accept an offer you get from an insurance company until you talk to a lawyer. And we represent some of the best personal injury lawyers you can find. Tough lawyers that will fight to win your case. And they're so good they stake their reputation on it by only getting paid if you win. So if you've been in a serious car, truck, or motorcycle accident or hurt on the job, find out today for free what kind of compensation you may be entitled to. Call the legal helpline right now.
800-507-3114. 800-507-3114. 800-507-3114. That's 800-507-3114.
How healthy is your heart? Hi, I'm Representative Lauren Matsumoto from Hawaii and Women in Government Board Chair. February is American Heart Month, a perfect time to focus on our overall health and well-being. It's important to know that high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and smoking increase the risk of heart disease. But did you know women, rural Americans, and racial and ethnic minority groups are also disproportionately impacted? To learn your risk level and for more information, visit womeningovernment.org.
The Watchdog on Wall Street podcast with Chris Markowski. Every day, Chris helps unpack the connection between politics and the economy and how it affects your wallet. It's Groundhog Day all over again. Congress has to figure out how to control our nation's debt. What solutions is Kevin McCarthy discussing? And what's the real way to solve America's debt crisis? What should you be looking out for? The Watchdog on Wall Street, Chris Markowski, explains. Whether it's happening in D.C. or down on Wall Street, it's affecting you financially. Be informed. Check out the Watchdog on Wall Street podcast with Chris Markowski on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast.
We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. I'd like to introduce Eric Pryor, President and CEO of Pennsylvania Academy of the Fine Arts. Eric, what is Pennsylvania Academy of the Fine Arts? What are you guys up to?
Well, we are the oldest museum and art school in the country. We have over 17,000 works of American art. We serve over 700 unique students in our college and continuing education program, and we bring over 20 to 30,000 guests a year through our museum.
Where are you from originally? How many brothers and sisters, and where are you in the pecking order?
I'm from Detroit, Michigan. I am the youngest of six, 4 boys, 2 girls.
Youngest of 6. What did being the youngest of 6 do to you?
It did a couple things. You learn to listen because you don't get a lot of airspace to talk, and you get comfortable with other people telling you what to do.
8 to 14. What kind of stuff were you up to as a kid?
I loved art and drawing when I was in school, and I was a tall kid, 6'5" now, and I played basketball and loved it.
You also mentioned there was something pretty dramatic that happened when you were about 12ish. What happened?
My dad passed away of cancer.
Okay. Matthew, please give me a hand.
Yeah, Eric, how young were you when you remember loving art and drawing?
From elementary school, first, second grade, I've always enjoyed it. I was good at it, and they love that affirmation of kids saying, "Oh, that looks good."
And who really inspired that? Was there someone who was encouraging you and helping you?
Well, my mom always exposed us to the arts. She was always a creative person, and so she took us to museums and art.
So how young do you remember going to museums?
Probably 5.
And what does that trip to museums when you're 5 years old, what does it have to do with what you're doing now?
Well, ironically, I probably went kicking and screaming then, but now it just gave me an appreciation for culture and learning about different types of things.
Jim?
Eric, you mentioned working in your mother and older brother's antique store when you were younger. What were you doing there?
Well, with my mom, I was a salesperson and minding the store. My brother was a wallpaper hanger. So early on, my job was cleaning up, and it was no fun. And then as I learned the skill, I got to actually hang wallpaper and paint.
So I imagine you interact with patrons and donors in your role as president of the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts. I wonder, did working in an antique store help you develop customer service skills?
Oh, totally. Communication is everything. I mean, it really helped me to understand people and how to engage them.
Did that experience also teach you about the value and history of different objects?
It did. It helped me, and it helped me to focus and recognize that you needed to pay attention to what was going on, and understand and learn about the different objects and the fact that these various things that sometimes look like junk were very valuable.
Frank?
Eric, the youngest of 6, you said you had to learn to listen to people who didn't stop talking. Tell me how that influences you today.
Well, to be a leader, it's so important to active listen. It's so important for my staff to realize that I hear them, that I recognize them, and also just in terms of understanding that because I'm the CEO doesn't mean I have the answers. You surround myself with a team of smart people, making certain that when they put good ideas and strategies forward, that I'm in a position to carry those through and help them to carry those through.
Caleb?
Eric, you mentioned you were a basketball player, and the green room you told us you were a forward. What do you learn as a forward on the court?
Essentially, you got to do a little bit of everything. You got to be willing to play defense. You got to know when to play offense. You got to know when to defer. You got to know when to be aggressive. And more than anything, you got to understand as a teammate, you got to get in where you need to be. So if someone else falls down and they can't get that rebound, you got to be ready to dive for that ball or go after that rebound.
So did that help develop your character as the leader you are today?
Oh, totally. Work ethic. I realized at an early age that if you're going to be good, you had to put in the time. You had to, as I say, go in the lab. And for me, after my dad passed, I understood if I was going to go to college and go where I wanted to go, I needed to get a scholarship.
I'm glad you mentioned about your dad passing, because you said you were the first of your brothers who were able to play sports.
Yeah.
Because they were busy working in your father's business. Yeah. So when you were able to go onto the basketball court and learn all those other skills to become a leader, I'm wondering if that relates to how you treat your staff and your employees now for them to pursue outside interests.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think one of the things that basketball really brought me in terms of my team, it's just really all being on the same page and understanding our various roles and understanding that how we support one another. So that more than anything else was what really was important to me as far as my translation from sports to what I do now.
Tim?
So Eric, with your father passing at such a young age, how did it affect the family dynamics?
Well, my dad was really successful, but when he passed, we went from being solidly financially secure to things being rocky. My mom had to go back to college, and then she went back to college, and then she started her own business, which was the antiques and art gallery.
So the fact that you saw that rockiness and you went through that family dynamic how's that affecting you nowadays as the president and CEO of the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts?
It helped me understand that if you are prepared and you are focused, that things will work out. I don't panic. I think that, seeing my mom, she didn't panic. She knew what she needed to do and she did it. And seeing that helped me to have the kind of faith in knowing that if I did the things I was supposed to do, that I could get the outcome that I wanted.
Mm-hmm. In your childhood, what prepared you best to deal with your board?
My board, I think that just my relationships in sports was more than anything else, because you don't have success unless we're all in it together. And so how we relate to one another, how we talk to one another, that was a critical piece for me. Mm-hmm. And understanding what motivates other people. And I was a leader on my team. I was a lead scorer. And so that was critical.
Mm-hmm. Jim, what else are you thinking? So the ability to master what you were doing on the basketball court, you see that translating to both your team, how you're building and managing your team, and also how you're building and managing the board. Am I seeing that correctly, Eric?
Totally. I mean, it's all about, I think clear communication. And the other thing is, I think, being authentic and knowing when to be vulnerable and share experiences that I may have had in my life that helped me to relate to people and create trust between one another. So clear and
wait a minute, hold on for a minute here. It says here that you're the president and CEO of the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts.
Correct.
And you're talking about being vulnerable. What are you talking about?
Well, you gotta. A lot of times when you're in a position I'm in, I want my people to understand that they can't be afraid. Sometimes things are not going to work, and there's going to be times where you may fail at something. But learning from it and understanding, how do we learn from that? How do we not just go through it, but grow through it and become better and learn from that experience? Because we don't get to the highest level unless we're willing to take risks, which means you can't function from a position of fear.
Yep. Caleb, where are you coming from? What else are you thinking?
Hey, Eric, you briefly mentioned that you earned a scholarship to play in college. Tell us about that. What effect did that have on you?
It had a big effect. I went down and they offered me a scholarship at University of West Georgia. I was the only kid in that whole school from Detroit. I knew no one. And so it really just thrust me into a situation where, I had to get to know everybody. I got to know it was for the first time, teammates, other students. So it really helped me to understand how to just navigate relationships with people.
What about the culture of Detroit versus West Georgia? Did you learn a little bit about being able to handle different cultures?
Totally. But, what was really interesting is that the big difference was playing college basketball to playing high school. It humbled me quite a bit because I was always the star player. And when I got down there, all those guys were just as good as me, if not better. And I was never a star player there.
But I'm sure you were still a pretty integral member of the team. I mean, you got brought down there on scholarship. How did the coach at West Georgia really get you to elevate your game and be a contributor?
Well, bottom line is, just because you're not a starter, your role is you're playing the role of the team we're going to play coming up. So we prep the starters. How well we go up against them has to do with
We're going to run What is the website address for Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts?
It's PAFA.org.
We've been speaking with Eric Pryor, President and CEO of the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts. Stick around. We'll be back in a moment right after this quick break.
Angie's List is now Angie, and we've heard a lot of theories about why.
I thought it was an eco move. Fewer words, less paper.
No, it was so you could say it faster.
No, it's to be more iconic.
Must be a tech thing. But those aren't quite right. It's because now you can compare upfront prices, book a service instantly, and even get your project handled from start to finish.
Sounds easy.
It is, and it makes us so much more than just a list. Get started at Angie.com. That's ANGI, or download the app today.
The word never carries a lot of weight. Never forget, never settle, never surrender. And now Dodge is proud to announce Never Lift, the full throttle rally cry of stepping on the gas and never letting up. With the 475 horsepower Durango SRT 392 and the muscle car dynamic duo Dodge Charger and Challenger, and the introduction of Dodge Power Brokers, your official dealer for legendary direct connection performance parts. For more on the Never Lift mindset, go to Dodge.com. Dodge is a registered trademark of FCA US LLC.
Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information. Subscription required.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same but is 90% cheaper? And you can get it online? Just go to 4hims.com/joy. At Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the biggest brands at 90% off. That's right, get generic for Viagra, the same active ingredient as brand name Viagra, but 90% cheaper. It's the same medication you get from your doctor, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, 4hims.com/joy. That's 4hims.com/joy for your free online visit. FORHIMS.com/JOY.
The Watchdog on Wall Street podcast with Chris Markowski. Every day, Chris helps unpack the connection between politics and the economy and how it affects your wallet. It's Groundhog Day all over again. Congress has to figure out how to control our nation's debt. What solutions is Kevin McCarthy discussing? And what's the real way to solve America's debt crisis? What should you be looking out for? The Watchdog on Wall Street, Chris Markowski, explains. Whether it's happening in D.C. or down on Wall Street, it's affecting you financially. Be informed. Check out the Watchdog on Wall Street podcast with Chris Markowski on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Discover the 2022 Subaru Forester Wilderness, the second member of the Subaru Wilderness family. Featuring 9.2 inches of ground clearance, standard symmetrical all-wheel drive, and all-terrain tires for increased off-road capability. Plus, a design that's bold and protective at the same time. The Forester Wilderness unlocks a whole new level of adventure. Discover more at Subaru.com/wilderness.
We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. We'd like to get to know Chris McCarthy, who happens to be the Philadelphia market leader of Mercer. What is Mercer? What are you guys doing?
Mercer is a global HR consultancy firm where we help employers manage the health, wealth, and career of their most important asset, their people.
Wow. Where are you from originally? How many brothers and sisters, and where are you in the pecking order?
Yep. I grew up in Boston, Massachusetts, and I'm a bit of a unicorn. I'm an Irish Catholic only child.
What makes an only child special?
It's a unique position where you're the sole focal point of both your parents at all times, for better or worse.
All righty. And tell me a little bit about what you were up to 8 to 14 years old. What were you doing?
8 to 14, I was working a couple of jobs as a paper boy in a convenience store, and I also spent my free time playing ice hockey.
So what did you learn being a paper boy and working in the convenience store that has anything to do with you being the Philadelphia market leader of Mercer?
Yeah, so I think it's a lot of dealing with customers, right, and clients. So you have to manage your clients and customers as a paper boy, making sure that everything happens on time and gets delivered. And then the same thing for a convenience store. You have to have relationships with folks who come in every day and know a little bit about them.
Huh. Okay, makes sense. Matthew?
Chris, tell me about mom and dad.
Mom and dad both were teachers. My father started as a teacher, later transitioned to IT, and both very.
Who are you more like, mom or dad?
I'm actually a blend of the two. They both have strong work ethics and very focused, loyal interpersonal relationships.
What are their work ethic and their focus on interpersonal relationships? What does that have to do with what you're doing today at Mercer?
Well, I think a lot of the value and enjoyment I get from my work is the relationships, whether it's with my clients or my colleagues at work or, vendors or anything like that. That's where I really get my energy from.
Mm-hmm. Caleb.
Chris, you just mentioned that both your parents were school teachers, but then your father got into IT. How did he make the move from a school teacher to IT?
It was a bit of a forced move. So he was laid off during a restructuring in the Boston public schools. So he had to go back to school and relearn a skill in IT and in the meantime, paint houses.
And during that time, you're basically one income with him getting some additional income from painting houses. What effect did that have on the family?
It was just interesting to see someone make a career transition, midlife and really have to buckle down, go back to business school, learn things.
And that kind of goes back to what you're doing today. You mentioned you take care of the health, wealth, and career of your people. So I'd imagine that you really have a passion for what you do. I mean, how does that benefit the clients of Mercer?
Well, I think it benefits the clients from Mercer in a few ways. And the main is, you're always thinking about employers care about their employees. And so we have to find ways to make things affordable and to make things, impactful in their days.
Perfect. Jim?
Chris, you mentioned playing hockey when you were growing up. What position did you play?
I was more of a stay-at-home defenseman.
In your opinion, what are some of the key traits or skills necessary for success as a defensive player in hockey?
Yeah, I think there's actually a lot, but I think it's a team sport, right? Hockey I view as the ultimate team sport, and I view that really lends itself to consulting, where it's also a team sport.
I'm guessing communication is important as a defenseman, correct?
Yep. Communication, no ego, strong work ethic. Yep.
How do you communicate with your team and make decisions for the firm?
It's gotten a little bit more challenging over this hybrid workforce, but it's in a variety of ways through in-person meetings, emails, and then just having lots of just random phone calls, cell phone, picking up the call, phone calling people.
Tim?
Chris, is there a non-relative that made a big impact on your life early in your career?
Yeah, so it was probably my job, my boss from later in high school and through college, who was an entrepreneur, owned her own landscaping firm, very strong work ethic.
So how did that work at the landscaping firm impact you as your role today?
Right. So you have to basically keep your nose down, grinding, not make excuses, and just keep going.
Frank?
Chris, both parents are elementary school teachers, so education and nurturing is in that. How does their experience impact you today at Mercer?
Yeah, so I think the education and nurturing is key. When we have 170 folks in our office, and so it's bringing everyone up, right? So it's making sure our junior folks are being trained and our senior folks feel well supported.
Matthew?
So Chris, when Tim asked you in the green room about a non-family influence, you kind of went non-family, which makes me want to ask, tell me about your family when you were growing up. Do you have a big extended family around you?
Yeah, so my lots of aunts and uncles, and one of the main impacts of my professional career was my uncle Jim Ward, who owns the Ward Group, an executive search firm up in Massachusetts, and just his relationships with his clients and his value and work in managing his clients. It was really impressive, and it's something I've carried forward.
Wait, you telling me you were looking at that when you were a kid? You were watching him?
Yeah, so I also interned for him a bit, in free time. So I saw his, dedication to his clients.
How young were you when you were interning for him?
It was through high school and college. So just
so what did you see him doing with his clients that had such an impact on you?
He knew every single one of them deeply, not just what they did for a living, but who their siblings were, who their kids were, what their personal interests were. You get a real deep hooks.
So that was kind of a shtick of his, that he memorized all these facts?
Oh yeah.
No, it wasn't a shtick. It was real, right?
It was all real. Yep.
Well,
never stopped.
Tell me more about that.
It's just impressive, the diligence, right? It takes a lot to learn about people and to really care about people. And it's a genuine thing, right? So when you see that happening, so he did it both with his family, he did it also with all of his clients. It's pretty impressive.
That takes a lot of time, right?
He never stops.
So are you like that with Mercer now?
I try to be.
How?
You just have to, you have to drive energy from the people, right? So from your colleagues and your clients, and that amount of energy is boundless if you can harness it in the correct way.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about, Chris?
Personally, I have a lot of interest in what others do and what others, are interested in. And so just learning about people, it's fascinating to me, and talking with them, it never stops.
What's fascinating to you?
I think what gets people up in the morning, right? Like what excites them, what their interests are, right? What got them to where they are today, what their needs are, what they need to be, what problems they're having, what they need to be solved, right?
How young were you when that characteristic of curiosity regarding other people began to show up? How young were you?
So it may actually trace back to the convenience store when you're talking to customers. So we had a lot of folks. It was a Massachusetts lottery store. So a lot of people came in there all day and drank coffee and scratched tickets. And so you just talked to them all day.
So you used to sit there and talk to them?
Yeah, learn about them.
How young were you?
I was 13 when I started there.
So what kind of stuff did you learn at 13 talking to these people that were coming in the convenience store, buying lottery tickets and drinking coffee?
Yeah, quite a bit, Herb. So it was so next door was a police station. So he was talking to cops all day. And then there were a few bartenders trying to kill their day too, right? So you learned a lot about society.
What did you learn? Give me the impact of this stuff.
Well, what people are working towards, right? So, what interests the bartender is different than what interests the cop, right? And the cop who's trying to get his son, the hockey scholarship and spending all of his time at the rink doing that when he's not, picking up details, trying to earn some extra money to pay for it. So it was just interesting.
You're like a human database. It's unbelievable with the facts and figures that you know about people. And as Matthew was talking, it's not a shtick with you. It really is a deep curiosity. Matthew, are you picking that up too?
Yeah, tell me about this. You're 13 years old and you're getting the cops and the bartenders to talk to you. Like, how'd you do that? How'd you know how to do that?
Anyone will talk, right? People have time, right? If a cup of coffee and a newspaper, they'll sit there and they'll tell you their whole story.
Was there someone who modeled that you watched doing it when you were 13 years old?
The owners of the store really took an interest in their customers too. They recognize, right? You're the customers are the lifeblood of the business. If people don't feel welcome and taken care of at your store, they won't come back, right? And
I don't know that everybody has that ability like you do to help to really listen to people where people are really opening up to you. So let me ask you a question. Your role as it says here, you're the Philadelphia market leader of Mercer.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's helped you in your career, this genuine interest you take in people?
Oh, without a doubt, right? So, I mean, people are all we're dealing with, right? So, we're consulting services. So we don't have a product. Our product is our people. So if you have folks who feel well taken care of on both the colleague and the client end, then success will come from that.
Huh. Do you ever meet with the client's employees?
Direct with the employees, not often. Most of our relationship is through, their HR or finance function.
Uh-huh. So my bet is you probably do a pretty good job retaining your clients, don't you?
If you don't retain, you can't grow.
I thought the name of the game was keep getting new clients.
It's both.
It's both what? What are you talking about?
I mean, you have to keep your existing clients happy, right? And then you have to find new ones, right? And that's how you grow.
Do you ever get any referrals from your existing clients?
Quite a few.
Why?
I think it goes back to service, right? If you folks feel they know when they're being well taken care of, we have an office of 170 folks who feel just the same as I do, are dedicated to their clients. And, from that, it's actually easier.
So you really set the model. I mean, you're not false. You're really true to who you are. And I bet I'm willing to bet you have a positive influence on your team. What's the website address of this organization?
Mercer.com, MERCER.com.
Mercer.com. We've been speaking with Chris McCarthy, Philadelphia market leader of Mercer, here on Executive Leaders Radio. Don't forget to visit our website, executiveleadersradio.com. That's executiveleadersradio.com to learn more about our executive leaders. We'll be back in a moment, right after this quick break. Don't go anywhere. This is Herb Cohen, your Executive Leaders Radio host. And the CEOs we've interviewed on this show are interested in helping you get your business started and helping you grow your business, whether you're aware of the issues or whether you want the CEOs to give you a hand identifying the issues in getting your business started and or in growing your business. Why don't you email us at consult@executiveleadersradio.com. That's consult@executiveleadersradio.com. Whether you're interested in having our CEOs speak with you regarding getting your business started or growing your business, send us an email at consult@executiveleadersradio.com, and we'll be sure to get back to you shortly with some help.
Hey, I'm Richard Gerhardt, founder of Gerhardt Law, specializing in patents, trademarks, and copyrights. Find out more about us at gerhardtlaw.com. Along with Elizabeth, we host Passage to Profit, Road to Entrepreneurship. And here's Stu McLaren, subscription services expert.
The membership experience is a training program where we help entrepreneurs add recurring revenue in their business through memberships. And this training program came from the fact that I owned a previous software company, and it went on to become the world's #1 membership platform for WordPress. I was fortunate because I was behind the scenes helping literally tens of thousands of people launch and grow their memberships on this platform. When I sold my shares, we were powering over 70,000 online communities and memberships.
This Passage to Profit Minute was brought to you by Gerhardt Law, specializing in patents, trademarks, and copyrights, serving entrepreneurs worldwide.
To find a broadcast near you, visit our website at passagetoprofitshow.com.
How healthy is your heart? Hi, I'm Representative Lauren Matsumoto from Hawaii and Women in Government Board Chair, February is American Heart Month, a perfect time to focus on our overall health and well-being. It's important to know that high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and smoking increase the risk of heart disease. But did you know women, rural Americans, and racial and ethnic minority groups are also disproportionately impacted? To learn your risk level and for more information, visit womeningovernment.org.
How long does it take to tackle a home project? With Angie, you could cross it off your list before this ad is over. Just tell us what you need, indoor or outdoor, repair or redesign, and we handle the rest, sending a top pro to get it done. You don't have to lift a finger, except to tap the screen or click the mouse. Plus, Angie is free to use. So bring us your next home project, and we'll bring it home. Download the app or go to Angie.com, that's ANGI.com, to get started.
This is your Tech It Out Minute with Mark Saltzman, brought to you by Asus.
Microsoft Surface Pro 8 combines the power of a laptop with the flexibility of a tablet, and it also includes a stylus for writing on the screen. But how can you protect and extend the life and functionality of your Surface Pro 8? Well, the folks at Kensington make high-quality cases, and we asked Yuji Wakabayashi about their latest.
So this year we launched our rugged case for the Surface Pro 8 because we've always had cases for Surface devices, but as they change, we also have to change our case. So Microsoft launched the Surface Pro 8. So we then in turn launched our rugged case. Good thing about our rugged case is that you can still use the kickstand even though it's in the rugged case, as well as it has a spot for the pen and a tether. You can hold it either via a hand strap or a shoulder strap that's included. And we also have a strap that kind of locks down the type cover so it's not kind of flopping around as you're walking around with that.
Find the perfect case for you at Kensington.com.
That was your Tech It Out Minute, brought to you by Asus.
We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. I'd like to introduce Ernie Huggard, who's the president and CEO of First Harvest Credit Union. Ernie, what is First Harvest Credit Union?
We are a credit union that serves South Jersey and Williamsport, Pennsylvania. We have about 43,000 members, and our assets are about $500 million at this time.
Where you're from, how many brothers and sisters, and where are you in the pecking order?
I grew up down at the Jersey Shore. I am the oldest of 6 children. I have 5 sisters.
How did your 5 sisters plant the seeds for your role as a president and CEO of First Harvest Credit Union?
It's interesting that I had to listen to them, even though I was the oldest. I was outnumbered by them just vocally telling me what they wanted me to do for them.
And so you learned to listen, huh? And 8 to 14, what were you doing? What else were you doing 8 to 14 years old?
8 to 14, growing up at the shore, I got into rowing, and to make money, I delivered the newspaper and worked at a 5 and 10 cent store, blowing up inflatable rafts and a stock boy.
What'd you learn working at the 5 and 10 cent store as a kid that has anything to do with being the president and CEO of a $500 million credit union?
It's interesting that the customer's always right, and we had to service their needs, blowing up rafts, inflatables, things of that nature, whatever they wanted. That was my job, to make sure they got what they needed.
Jim, give me a hand, please.
Ernie, I believe you played some different roles when you were on the rowing team. Can you describe that a little?
Absolutely. When I was in high school, I was a little smaller. So I was the coxswain, which is the person that steers the boats, gives the commands. So my job was to make sure everybody worked in synchronization and was able to move the boat. And then you're the coach on the water when the coach isn't around. And in college, I rowed.
So you're coxswain. He's the guy yelling at the other guys. So communication is key as a coxswain. How do you communicate with and lead your crew to achieve a common goal as president and CEO of Huggard?
Thank you. We have core values here. So everything I do is driven from a core value that we have at the institution. I always go back to that whenever I speak to the employees or we do something new.
So you switch over to the rower role. What's different about being a rower than a coxswain?
You have to keep your mouth shut, and you kind of just are all muscle there. You do what you're told to do. You listen and you perform.
Matthew.
Ernie, how young were you when you were interested in military service?
Good question. I believe I was about a freshman in high school. My father was served in the Navy Reserve. I used to question him about why he was going away for 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year. And I learned a lot from him in that That's how he learned his leadership skills, which eventually led him to being the CEO and chairman of Atlantic City Electric, a publicly traded company.
So you, in the green room, you described your role with your younger sisters as being a guardian, and I feel like there's a connection, an obvious connection between that and wanting to serve in the military. But draw the connection from those two things to being in charge at First Harvest Credit Union.
I am the guardian here. I have 150 employees that I'm responsible for, their livelihood, their families. We treat everybody as an independent person. I listen to them. I go around. My corporate headquarters building is about 70 people in it because we're in 10 different locations. And I get to talk to everybody once a week.
You talk so much about leadership, but it seems like it's a lot more about listening than it is about talking for you. Is that fair?
That's correct. Because I tell my people, I don't know what you hear. You need to tell me right or wrong so that we can improve the process.
But how do you lead by listening? I don't get that.
It's a very simple process. They hear what our members or customers have to say, what they like, they dislike. Then I, in turn, can correct the problem as being the CEO.
Wow. Caleb.
Ernie, I'm going to stick with your role as being the oldest of 6. So you said something pretty funny to us in the green room. You said on a Friday night, if you wanted the car, you had to drive all 5 of your sisters around. So you were really a resource for them at a young age. How are you a resource to your employees now at First Harvest Credit Union?
It's identical, Caleb. When I listen to them, they tell me the problems that they hear or experience. I then get my team together. We identify the situation. If it's fixable, I fix it. If I can't fix it, I tell them why I can't fix it.
Tim?
Ernie, in the green room, you said that you were a part of the marching band. How did that interact with, how did you interact with other kids and what did you do in the marching band?
Thank you. I was a drummer. I played snare drum in the marching band in high school. And then my senior year, I became drum captain or with the person in charge of all the percussion section. So I had to lead them and teach them what to do.
Yeah. So when you became the captain, how did that, affect some of your role as CEO at First Harvest?
It's fun. Same thing. It was more mentoring when you get a freshman in high school who hasn't been into the same environment. So it's all about mentoring with the other individuals.
Frank?
Ernie, as the only other male in your house, I'm sure you had a unique relationship with your dad. Tell me about that.
That's a good, yes. My father and I were the ones that would take control of the TV on Sunday afternoons to watch a football game or some evening to watch the Phillies. One of the things that I learned is how to work with others, even though I didn't have to do a lot of the housework. I had to do a lot of the outside work. We had 52 windows in our house. I had to, every spring and fall, wash 52 windows while my sisters got to sit around. The other side is I didn't have to wash any dishes when I was growing up.
And how does that impact your relationship with your kids?
Very good. I don't do it that way. Everybody has to pitch in at the house now, no matter how old you are.
Tim?
So as far as you mentioned, you're part of the scouting program, and that was kind of important. You can talk a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. I was a Boy Scout. I achieved the grade of life. My father was an Eagle Scout, and then my oldest son is an Eagle Scout. So I wanted to continue that legacy that we had started in the family with scouting. Unfortunately, I didn't get the Eagle, but I made sure my son did.
Why is that so important to you?
I believe in a lot of legacies. I believe in keeping a historical line in that, for example, my name, I am the 5th Ernest Huggard in the family. So I believed in it. And
what's that have to do with your involvement in a credit union and you're building this credit union?
It's all about legacy. It's all about what you've built in the past and improving on it. This credit union is 85 years old. We continue to grow and we're moving forward.
Matthew?
Hey, Ernie, do you find time for community service?
Yeah, I'm a strong advocate. My parents put that into us very young. I spent 19 years on my Board of Education, 17 as president. I was also on various charity boards for 20 years as chair. So I believe in giving back to the community. We also did a fundraiser in my community where we raised $125,000 to build a playground.
How'd your parents put that into you?
It's funny, with 6 kids, we weren't very rich, so we all had to share. We all had to pitch in. My mother actually taught at the local parochial school for free, just so that they had a physical education program.
Well, why was that important to your parents?
because they believed in the community. They believed that you have to be a part of a community to raise good children, to have a good society, and make sure that everybody was treated fairly.
So does that value of community, does that connect to running a credit union?
Absolutely. First Harvest is in very income deprived communities. We have low income designations in the credit union space: Pleasantville, Camden, Glassboro, Vineland. So my mission is to make sure we get out and help all those customers that need help.
Wouldn't it make more sense for a business to go in the places where the money is, especially like a bank kind of business? I don't get it.
No, actually, we're more unique than that. We don't have shareholders to answer to. We don't have to pay income taxes. So every dollar that we make, we try to give back to the community. Our goal is we donate between 20 and 25% of every penny, every dollar, I should say, we make, we give back to the communities, either through endowments.
Even if you don't have shareholders, why give it back to the community instead of doing it as like salary for the boss?
No, that's not what our mantra is. That's not what our core values are. That's not our mission. Our mission is specifically giving back to the communities in which they, in fact, give to us.
Caleb?
Ernie, you've mentioned core values a few times now. I mean, in the military, it's huge. Coming up, it's very big. And what's your favorite core values of First Harvest?
My favorite core value is a mission and service to the communities. I push that all the time. We are involved in everything that we can be in the community.
So that's really what gets you up every day, being part of the community and enhancing your community.
Absolutely. And I keep telling my people all the time, our name is our reputation in the community. Let's keep it going. Let's keep it positive with all our community members.
What is the website address for First Harvest Credit Union, Ernie?
FirstHarvestCU.com.
Let me have that one more time.
FirstHarvestCU.com.
We've been speaking with Ernie Huggard, President and CEO of First Harvest Credit Union. Matthew, can you give us a rundown on who else we've had the opportunity of hanging out with?
Sure can, Herb. It's been a really fun show. We started off with Cynthia Figueroa, who's the president and CEO of JEVS Human Services. Then we had Eric Pryor, president and CEO of the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts. We had Chris McCarthy, the Philadelphia market leader of Mercer. And just now we wrapped up with Ernie Huggard, the president and CEO of First Harvest Credit Union.
I'd like to thank my co-hosts, my wonderful co-hosts, including Matthew Shapiro Obermeyer, Caleb Hoppus Hanlon, Jim Wilson Newmark, Tim Gwim, PCH Technologies, and Frank Arcara, Alliant, for giving me a hand structuring the questions, hopefully providing our listening audience an educational and entertaining show. And I think my co-host did a great job deepening and broadening these interviews. Don't forget to visit our website. It's executiveleadersradio.com. That's executiveleadersradio.com in order to learn more about our executive leaders. Thank you for joining us today and have a nice day. Bye-bye.
The word never carries a lot of weight. Never forget, never settle, never surrender. And now Dodge is proud to announce Never Lift, the full throttle rally cry of stepping on the gas and never letting up. With the 475 horsepower Durango SRT 392 and the muscle car dynamic duo Dodge Charger and Challenger. And the introduction of Dodge Power Brokers, your official dealer for legendary direct connection performance parts. For more on the Never Lift mindset, go to Dodge.com. Dodge is a registered trademark of FCA US LLC.
Discover the 2022 Subaru Forester Wilderness, the second member of the Subaru Wilderness family. Featuring 9.2 inches of ground clearance, standard symmetrical all-wheel drive, and all-terrain tires for increased off-road capability. Plus, a design that's bold and protective at the same time. The Forester Wilderness unlocks a whole new level of adventure. Discover more at Subaru.com/wilderness.